At the same time as this anti-Semitism is unfolding in Sydney, the Albanese government has been weak and limp. And worse, they've offended Israel by refusing to issue a visa to a former Israeli minister, Ayelet Shaked, even though she has family here and came here without issue in March last year. And nothing has changed since then except October 7. Israel is pretty furious about this. On Tuesday night, Ayelet, in an exclusive interview, told me she expected there'd be consequences.
I think your Minister of Interior should be ashamed of himself that is just trying, to impress a radical Muslim minority, and instead, is hurting the feeling of the Jewish community in Israel and the relationship with Israel. I spoke with the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Israel and with the ambassador, and definitely there will be consequences to this brutal act.
So her visa refusal is despite the Albanese government fast-tracking visas for nearly 3,000 Gazans from a terrorist-controlled war zone. Well, now for an exclusive interview, let's bring in Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister, Sharren Haskel. Sharren, congratulations on your promotion. What is your response to this hostile move by the Albanese government?
Well, this actions is completely unacceptable, especially between countries who are supposed to be allies. There is no justification for this offensive action. And for me personally, I'm worried about that kind of decision. And I think it should trouble any Australian citizen. Look, my views, political views, are not very different than Ayelet's one. I was a resident of Australia, and if Ayelet comes to Australia to have a discussion, this should be a concern for every citizen and his freedom of speech or freedom of information to hear a different opinion. And the government is restricting people from coming and voicing a different opinion. That's what it is. It's silencing it. And, it is very concerning for us, and it should concern the Australian citizens too.
When Ayelet, as you just heard there, said that there'll be consequences, will there be a political response from Israel?
Look, there isn't a political response that we have initiated or discussed. It's not on our table at this point. We are concerned. We are very disappointed. I know that some people may have implied that there is certain measures that will be taken. There isn't one because actually we see Australia as one of our allies. And we hope that this current government is not taking steps to try and break this alliance and this true friendship that goes years and years back.
There's now a ceasefire in place with Hezbollah just announced. Over the next 60 days, Israel is going to withdraw from southern Lebanon, and terrorists are going to have to leave the area south of the Litani River. This, of course, is just a return to the 2006 UN Security Agreement 1701 that was breached by Hezbollah on October 8 last year. Do you have any confidence they won't breach it again?
Well, I'm very skeptic, Sharri. And as most Israelis, we're going into this ceasefire with many concerns. The agreement is trying to break the Iranian occupation in Lebanon and bring back the Lebanese military into their posts instead of a terrorist organization funded and managed by Iran. The reality is that the international community, throughout years, they were in charge of ensuring that Hezbollah cannot arm itself and cannot build posts or pose a security threat on our citizens, on our people. And the fact is, the amount of ammunition and tunnels that we have found in the border area, some of them next to the UNIFIL, the United Nations forces who were meant to keep our security, were built next to them, shows us that they actually planned a 10 times worst 7th of October massacre towards our communities. And the failure of the international community in enforcing the agreement puts us at many concerns about this current ceasefire. And that's why we've repeatedly said that it's not about the sections or what's written in this agreement. It's mainly about enforcement and whether the Lebanese army will be able to enforce its rule against Hezbollah, against Iran. And if there will be any violation, we will not hold back anymore. There will be, and there needs to be, a direct response to every attack or any breach of this ceasefire, any breach of the agreement.
Yeah, and not just the Lebanese army, but the United Nations should be enforcing this as well. And the UN didn't when it was breached on October 8 and never said a word the whole year until Israel started responding. And then suddenly everyone was up in arms, ceasefire, ceasefire. But where was the ceasefire when Hezbollah was firing rockets into Israel? Anyway.
Absolutely. And more so, it is the international community who for a whole year, promised us in Israel that they will reach a diplomatic agreement so that we don't need to go into a war with Lebanon. We did not want that war. We tried everything to try and prevent this war. But the international community failed us again when they promised us a diplomatic solution. And for a whole year, our communities were burnt, destroyed. Our children were murdered, like the 12 Druze children up in the northern border, and many more people.
All right, Sharren, Haskel, really appreciate your time again. Congratulations on your promotion to Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel.